Hey, it's Chanel reviewing the OD spinner, and this one particularly is a special edition all black one, vacuum sealed, steel body, and it's got hybrid bearings. I do apologize, I do not have the box for this here with me, but I'll put a picture on the screen so you can see what the packaging looks like when you get this. So I want to preface this entire review by saying I honestly have nothing negative to say about this. Anything negative I say, it's really just me like picking apart things that aren't necessarily, at least I don't find them to be extremely significant or a deterrent for why anyone would not want to purchase this. I purchased this myself for a couple of reasons. Well, one, this one in particular, I really like the black design. This was, I believe, like the first batch that the designer Mark Gore did in all black. Normally it's either in brass or it's in steel, and this one particularly is in steel. I prefer brass, but I'm a huge fan of black. That sounds so emo of me, but I really do like black, so I wanted to snag one of the black steel ones because I don't think that there's going to be a colored brass one anytime soon, and I wanted to get one sooner rather than later. So at the moment, right now, I personally have 3 spinners. This is my third. It's steel. The one I had before that I purchased before that, is the Hyperstone in brass. And then another one that I have, which I don't have with me right now at this moment, is the Noble Spin Virtue, and that is steel with the titanium coating. So these two are of similar price points, and the Noble Spin is another category. I wouldn't even compare it to being anything like these two. No offense to the Noble Spin, but you get what you pay for. And so after having the OD spinner for a couple of days here and having the Hyperstone for about 2 weeks now, this being 90 USD, this being 100 USD, I can say that I believe this is worth the money, and this one is not quite there yet. I love the Hyperstone. My biggest issue with the Hyperstone, it's not the design, it's not the aesthetic, it's not the ergonomics of it. I love how quiet it is. I love how it feels. I love its fidgetability, which is a word that's been going around here that I think we kind of all just collectively made up. I love it for those reasons, but why I don't feel that this Hyperstone is worth the 90 USD is because of issues that I mentioned previously in my other review about this set screw. So this set screw is an issue. Someone commented on the previous video, sort of giving a very in-depth analysis about how with this set screw, if you tighten it too much, it will like morph the bearing and permanently affect the speed. And if it's too loose, the buttons will move. Like I think you can even see right here. Let me just adjust the focus here. You can already see that there is a little bit of clearance on the top, and the bottom one is pushing against the body, grinding against the body, which is obviously going to affect the spin speed. And I can just push it a little bit. You heard that little click? Like you can push it, like you have to push it into the middle, and when you spin it, it's going to go up or down. So if you make it too tight, you're going to mess up the bearing, and if it's too loose, you have to constantly be dealing with this issue of the buttons moving around. And if I'm paying $100 for a piece of metal, let's be honest with ourselves, people who are watching this video, they like hand spinners, it's a hobby, there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm paying $100 for a piece of metal, like it needs to work. And everything about this is so perfect, but the set screw issue is enough of an issue for me to not say you shouldn't be paying a full 100 USD for that. I've heard recommendations about having to glue the bearing in. I mean, it does come with a free second bearing, which is nice. So people are recommending that you take out the set screw, you push out the bearing, and then you glue it in. I'm going to try it potentially. I am kind of afraid I'm going to mess up the Hyperstone completely because I'm not like much of a handy woman. But again, if I'm paying 90 USD for a piece of metal, I shouldn't have to be making these adjustments myself. Now, getting back to the purpose of this review, I'm not here to actually talk about the Hyperstone. Getting back to the OD spinner, this was 100 USD And it is everything the Hyperstone is without any of the issues. It spins smoothly, it feels so balanced, it looks beautiful. There's very little noise. It is very fidgetable. It has a smooth spin, admittedly not as smooth and buttery as the Hyperstone, but it does still have a very smooth spin. Again, I've mentioned before that I'm not the biggest fan of steel. I do like the feel of brass and the weight of brass more than I like steel, but I do still really love this for what it is. So getting a little more in detail, let's talk about the aesthetic and the look of it first. So, as you can see, it's got like this nice decal on the front. It is not on the back, however, which is okay. And you have these through cuts that are very well done and look phenomenal when you're spinning it. And you also have this very unique way of adding additional weight to the edge of the body. You have like the raised surface at the edge of the body, which looks very unique, and I haven't really seen it on a lot of designs. So I do really like that. One thing I was worried about with this having black paint was scratching. Anything that has paint to some degree, I think, is going to be susceptible to getting scratches. And when I first got it, there was like 2 extremely minor scratches. They weren't like necessarily a huge deal, because I do recognize that over time I'm going to be potentially scratching this myself. But it's something to note. Let me see if I can show it to you. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to see, but I think you can kind of make those 2 small white highlights. If you could see this in person, you'd be able to see that those are scratches, and like the whiteness is, I imagine it's the steel underneath the paint that's coming through. So those came with the spinner. Again, it wasn't a huge issue to me, but it did immediately remind me that this is something that is going to scratch. So yesterday I had this in my pocket, and this is more my fault than the OD spinner's fault. I didn't have this in any kind of case, and it did get a couple of small scratches. They're like micro scratches, but again, this is a review, so I'm just letting other people know that this one in particular with the black paint might be a little bit more susceptible to getting scratches. You can see them here. On screen, they're kind of just showing up as like little white dots or something. It almost looks like, I don't know, dandruff or something, but it doesn't go off. Those are scratches. I'm just trying to see how I can show it to you in the best way. But those are the scratches on this one particularly. I imagine that if you got like the all steel version with no paint or the brass version, this would not be an issue for you. And if you were smarter than me and you kept this in a case, then you wouldn't have this issue at all. So now talking about how this feels very right. It feels very ergonomical, which is something that the Hyperstone does very well. I will say that. It's not too heavy. It has a good weight to it, especially for steel. This crevice here that's on both sides of the spinner, it's perfect for just flicking and then continuing to flick, and it's just really easy to grab. There aren't really any hot spots. If there's any hot spot, I'm not even sure if it's that significant. The edges are pretty well rounded, but there has been a couple of times where I spun it really quickly and I was like gaining a lot of momentum, and then my skin right here above my nail would hit against an edge here, and it wasn't something where I was like in any kind of pain, but it did catch my attention. Again, like I said in the beginning of this video, any negative things I'm saying, I'm really just getting extremely nitpicky. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the bearing. This is a hybrid ceramic bearing. I cannot for the life of me get these buttons off, which is not necessarily the worst thing. I'm very confident that if I were to get some pliers, I would be able to pull it off. When I use my fingers, not so much. Yeah, no. I'm a little bit afraid to just get regular pliers because I don't want to grip it to an extent where it damages the paint in any way. I know that there are pliers with like a plastic coating. I'm not sure if I have any at my disposal to try that, but I can't open this for you. I know you're able to open it, but I can't. So unfortunately, I can't show you what it looks like inside. What I can tell you is that the bearings broke in pretty quickly. I would say that I got this around 11 a.m. or noon, and then it broke in around 8 p.m. or so. Like I felt like it fully broke in around that time. The spin speed that I got when I first got this was 2 minutes and 13 seconds, which is pretty good. Another thing regarding the bearings is that although I can't take the buttons off right now at this moment, they are removable, and I do really appreciate hand spinner designs that allow you to remove the bearing. I think when you're spending $70 USD and upwards, you should be able to customize it to your liking and adjust it to your own personal preferences. So I do like that the bearing and the buttons are removable. So in conclusion, I like everything about it. My only complaints are very minor, that I have some worries about the paint potentially chipping off in the future, that it doesn't spin necessarily as smooth and buttery as the Hyperstone, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad spinner in any way, shape, or form. And I can't right now at this moment take the buttons off, but I'm very confident that you can actually take it off. I'm just struggling. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe, and hopefully I will see you soon.